I'm B.
And I'm Renska.
We are so grateful that you are here.
Welcome to School of Joy.
Hello, B here. Before we get started with today's episode, I wanted to tell you about a couple of new offerings we have here at School of Joy. Renska is now hosting a weekly live meditation at 9:30 a.m. Amsterdam time, 8:30 a.m. British time. This is a 20-minute group meditation on Zoom, and the replay is available on our Substack, which you can listen to at any time, and I will pop the link below. We are now also offering free monthly breathwork sessions on Zoom, guided by myself, and monthly harmonic sound healings from Renska, also on Zoom. If you're a Joy Circle subscriber, we'll let you know about these events via email. The link to subscribe is in the episode description. Enjoy the episode.
Hello and welcome. Another episode of School of Joy. Today, B and I are going to be talking about higher guidance. You might have heard of that term, higher guidance, maybe not. So maybe let's start first with what does it mean to us so that you have a bigger understanding of what we're talking about. And then from there, we will go into some examples, how we know that we're receiving higher guidance, and to leave you with some tricks, tools, maybe even questions to ponder upon to start practicing that in your own life as well. B, would you like to kick off with what higher guidance means to you?
Yeah, I'd be really interested to hear your answer as well, actually, because, so, I mean, Ishtar, the channel of the Master's Way, as I understand it, she teaches that, we are a divine spirit and we are just having a physical experience here on earth, and that we are given an ego mind in which we have free will to make decisions about our life. And what we're really asked to do is to let go of our ego will and align our will with divine will, which is where we connect to our higher self. And, we've used the word co-create here in the podcast before. And what we're really talking about, as I understand it, is that we are co-creating with our divine spirit. And that and it's a choice, that a huge amount of humanity is not choosing, to receive that higher guidance, and that if we do so, that our life will flow and be in abundance in a way that our ego mind would never be able to create on its own, and that that our ego mind can't really understand that either. That's my understanding of it, Renska. How about for you? Because I'm very open to receiving from you as well about that.
No, mine is very aligned with that. I really see the ego as a tool of expression of our divine will. I think I shared that before in one of the episodes where, I visualize then a car that we're driving, through life on our path, and it's the question, who's sitting in the front seat steering the wheel? Is it our divine spirit that we allow to sit in the front, because the ego then decides to sit in the back seat? But that's the free choice of the ego will, whether it sits in the back seat as the observer or whether it sits in the front seat trying to control where we're going. And when it sits in the back seat, it becomes, as I said, the observer, and we allow ourselves to have a beautiful experience, an abundant experience, because we then have the ability to to look out the window and see, you know, everything that's there, which is amazing, right? Like we
Mm.
have this beautiful Mother Earth. We've been given this life on Earth that has an abundance of resources and beauty. And the moment the ego sits back and observes, it actually has the capacity or the ability then to see that all. But the moment it sort of focuses just on that steering wheel and just the front window, um, that's where we try to control really through
Mm.
life. That's where we limit ourselves in not being able to see the beauty. And
Yeah.
it's not that the beauty has left, because the beauty is still there. It's just that choice. Do we hyper focus and in trying to control, or do we step back and really enjoy the abundance of
Mm.
life? And that's the biggest lesson, I think, in humanity. If you struggle, I think, to feel any sense of purpose, or to know what your purpose is, then I think, at least for my mind, it was very comforting to know that this in itself is purpose. You know, is my
Mm.
purpose to learn to be guided by divine spirit, and to learn for my ego to be an expression of that, because I don't believe that the ego is bad or is wrong, that we need to eradicate the ego. It's just simply for the ego to take a different role
Mm.
and to become familiar with that, because it's been programmed to control for many lifetimes. And to let go of that takes some time as well, of course, to become familiar with that frequency, with that energy of divine spirit. So it's learning to trust that as well. Yeah. It's
Mm.
quite a journey. Yeah.
Yeah, I found the kind of that concept of um that we are just, that really this life that feels long to us is actually just a blip in
Yeah.
the whole experience that as a soul that we have, or whatever you want to call this. And that literally our sole purpose here is just to experience life. Because I think, yeah, being who I am, quite sensitive and a deep thinker, I've spent a lot of time feeling like, oh, what is the meaning, the purpose? And I sometimes, yeah, like sometimes when I am experiencing suffering in my life, I remind myself of that. Actually, this is just an experience that I'm just being asked to receive and have. And letting go of that control has been, yeah, really, really nice for me.
Yeah. Do you have any like examples? I always love like stories, because it helps us to understand it, what it means to you.
Well, so many really. I mean, I think, yeah, I think this is a subject that I feel really passionate about because, um, you know, I experienced life for a long time living in a state of threat. And as a result of that, my nervous system, my ego mind was very, very fixated on controlling. Um, and yeah, and I think, I think it's hard to believe in higher guidance until you've started receiving it. But Leah, last year, I mean, we were going through a really difficult time with our fertility, and we had um 2 rounds of IVF that failed. And, we were just in a mess really by the end of that experience. We've been struggling with infertility for 7 years, so um, it was a big deal for us to open ourselves up to more IVF. And then when both cycles failed, um, yeah, we were absolutely devastated. And it was interesting because obviously I was a year or so into self-mastery by the time we started IVF. And, at that point, if you'd asked me whether I was receiving higher guidance, I would have said no, probably. But throughout those experiences, throughout those rounds of IVF, there was something gnawing at me. Yeah, gnawing at me saying, well, you don't need to do this. There was something about it that didn't feel aligned, and I couldn't put my finger on it. And I kept saying it to Tom, there's something not right here. Like, I just don't, yeah. And it was difficult actually, because I felt that having those thoughts was like somehow gonna ruin my chances of success. Like, I was telling people around me and thinking, oh, like, am I kind of manifesting failure here?
Mm.
And months later, it all makes sense. But I think that was my divine, presence telling me, you don't need to control this. Anyway, so really, really difficult few months last year. And then, and I've shared this before, we got into a pickle. And then last autumn, we talked about whether or not we'd do more. I mean, we're just like, it didn't feel right. It was such an emotional roller coaster for our whole family. And so I went into sitting into receive, and I very intentionally asked for higher guidance. Okay, if this isn't what is meant for us, then show me what is. Yeah, and very quickly, really, I felt I received higher guidance then, which was to accept what was, to trust that life was unfolding as it was, and that I didn't need to control. And, I mean, we talked about it a bit in the last episode, wanting a child is such a huge, huge thing. And, we're really, really blessed to have Ren. She was an IVF baby. But that desire, I think it's such a biologically driven need for humans to reproduce.
Yeah, yeah.
So letting that go was a really, really big deal. I come from a big family. Tom comes from a big family. We'd always envisaged having a big family. But I was able to come into an acceptance of it. It was, really, really beautiful. And other things came out of that, School of Joy and me doing my breath work. And it's interesting because I felt I had my beautiful friend Plern, who's doing the Master's Way alongside me. She received guidance one day. I was sharing about IVF and whether we should do more. And she received a very clear message, which she gave me, which was, B, I'm getting this strong feeling that you need to just accept. And when she said it, I think she was quite anxious about how I was going to receive it. But the call to say it out loud in her was so strong that she sort of felt she had to. And it was a beautiful gift to me because I already knew. And she was just confirming something. Yeah. And so, and that was such a beautiful experience for her and me, because I think it, allowed her to trust her guidance.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
me to trust mine. So I think that's the sort of the best story I have really about that. And I feel that since then my life has been in so much flow. And that trusting that guidance has brought me so much peace. And I feel passionate about it because I really want everybody to live from that place of trusting, because it is such a beautiful place to experience life from.
What made you make the choice to then, because there's one, of course, step where we then realize, hey, okay, this really is the guidance. I've been asking for it,
Yeah.
specifically. Now I really feel that, I mean, for me at least, it doesn't always come straight away. It sometimes comes a bit later, but then you feel, okay, I've received this guidance, but then there's another step of, okay, are we now going to take action? And, are we going to follow that guidance? What made you decide to then trust and follow the guidance?
I think I think having that experience throughout the IVF where it didn't feel like aligned, this had gone on for months, really, this feeling that this isn't this deeper knowing, and you can't explain it until you've experienced it, but it was a deeper knowing. Yeah, so multiple things, that deeper knowing through the IVF process that this wasn't aligned, um, and then opening up to receive, and then receiving the guidance that I didn't need to control, that I could just accept. Yeah, like the guidance was so clear, your life will be abundant, regardless. So you just accept.
Mm.
And then, as I mentioned, Plern, giving me that message as well. There was too much to ignore, really. And I can't deny that we were in a complete mess. My ego was trying to control the outcome. We want a baby, so we're going to do this really extreme thing. And that wasn't bringing me any peace or joy. So, yeah, it was too loud for me to ignore, I guess.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. And already having had that subtle feeling or sense before, and then actually specifically asking, um, and then receiving clearly is then okay, yeah, yeah. And then being confirmed, by someone else
Yeah,
being put on your path. And yeah, yeah, I can totally imagine that. Yeah. Mm.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Do you have an example? I mean, I'm sure you do, Renska.
Yeah, there's many, many, many. I think the biggest, for me, the first, probably biggest, oh, not maybe the first, but it was like the biggest shift in my life is when I was living in New Zealand, and it's a bit similar to your process. Like I had this sort of this subtle sense of like that I was asked to move back to the Netherlands, yet my ego had all sorts of opinions on that, like that I wasn't gonna find the people that I would resonate anymore, that I wasn't, you know, gonna be able to create the life I wanted there, that I wasn't gonna be able to create the business that I envisioned, like all sorts of reasons and excuses it would come up with why not to move back to the Netherlands, and specifically my hometown, Valkenswaard. Probably a fear of no change almost, like because I had changed so much, I was then fearing that because nothing had changed in my hometown, which of course it would have as well. And because I had changed, I was learning then that I would attract differently through the law of
Mm,
resonance also. But that was the fear of my ego there, I guess, that I would go back to the old instead
mm,
of growing and evolving into the new. But I've then been asking very specifically after that subtle feeling, like asking very specifically for higher guidance. And then the guidance was very clear, but I needed some more confirmation in my life as well, then before I was then allowing myself to make that decision. Okay, I'm going to book the ticket. I'm going to go back, and I have no plan. I had no idea what I was gonna do then. I was just gonna move back in with my parents and then see from there.
mm,
But yeah, those little confirmations, and I remember, driving the car, sort of having this question in my mind, like, is it really in my highest? Do I really move back? And I remember a car coming in front of me with this bumper sticker, the colors of the Dutch flag, and this yellow sun sort of at the top. And I was like, are you freaking kidding me?
yeah,
Is it that much in my face?
yeah,
So yeah, I needed that then.
mm,
I think right now I don't need as much probably outside confirmation anymore. Like there's more trust in the higher guidance when I
Mm.
sit in my heart temple or in my heart space. I mean, um, and I ask for guidance. I feel that the, I guess the difference is much clearer to
Yeah.
me. Not to say that I always know for sure, but the more we practice, the easier it becomes to distinguish the two. Um, yeah, and then how did I know that it was higher guidance? Very similar to you, because then it starts flowing. Life just starts flowing.
Mm.
Even before moving back, um, people started reaching out to me, handing me on a golden platter, like, "Hey, do you want to?" There's like someone retiring from the Pilates classes. I have 2 Pilates classes you can teach, and there's lots of opportunity because we moved the dance school to somewhere else, and there's like an open space for you to rent and to like it. Yeah, my mind
Mm.
was like, okay, so there is a plan. I wasn't aware of the
Yeah.
plan. And yeah, so I think similar. And over time, I've just been practicing more with asking and receiving. Yeah, and then taking action on that. And I think that last one is still sometimes the hardest one where I'm like, my ego mind is very often like, how in the hell is this? Like it cannot understand that that's going to give a certain outcome.
Yeah.
But it's also then the mind asking or being asked to let go of that outcome.
Mm.
Um, and every time I do, my mind is just sort of, do you say gobsmacked? Is that
Mhm.
what the
Yeah.
word is?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like gobsmacked with
What
even more
unfolds?
abundance. Yeah, how it
Yeah.
unfolds. Like, oh my gosh, I wouldn't have been able to even think about this. So it's such an interesting journey. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so my experience as well. But we don't need to have the answers of where we're going. We just need to trust the process.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
And I think one of the things that I feel, I can imagine people listening, oh, this sounds good, how do we do this? But I think one of the things that I feel um is that it is like an uplifting of our
Yeah.
frequency and a presence as well, like a presence in this moment. Um that yeah, I think as our vibration kind of uplifts, then we are more aware of those signs,
Yeah.
like your driving story. So many of us wouldn't have noticed that. And I have a really similar experience actually with one of the messages I received last autumn was that I just need to focus on joy in my life. And the word joy was coming up everywhere, including, similar to you, I was driving along on the motorway once, and this car in front of me, their registration number was something, something joy. And I was like
Yeah.
laughing. I was like, I know, I get it. Like, that's what I'm doing. That's why we created School of Joy. Um, but yeah, I think it is a bit of a mystery. It's a bit of a mystery, but for me, I think as I've uplifted my frequency, and I mean, you're so many more years ahead of me, Renska, but I feel more and more I'm trusting, and the more I'm trusting, the more it flows and it comes, the guidance. Is that your experience too?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, like, I don't think I'm ahead of you. We're all in our perfect
Yeah, sure.
timing, but I maybe had a little bit more practice then. Um, um, yeah, it's, through the channeled work, because that's really how we literally start to vibrate at different frequency, because that's what the ascendant masters are here to support humanity, to uplift our frequency. So when we start to receive these activations that hold a very high frequency, our cells and our DNA starts changing and vibrating a different frequency, and therefore we open up more, then we do the inner work. So when something comes up and triggers us, we release that, which opens us up even more. We also incorporate, the practice of sitting in stillness and sitting in receiving, and all of that creates that this process is sort of sped up. Like it's a faster process than in opening up to
Yeah.
that higher guidance, because it doesn't mean that we can't do it any other way. It's simply that I experience and I see that in other students, that that process is then just faster, a lot faster,
Mm,
because we work, how I understand it is because we work with the deep consciousness. We don't try and change it through the mental, emotional, physical.
mm,
We literally change it at a much deeper spiritual level, and therefore the shift comes so much quicker.
mm,
Um, and therefore also the receiving of the higher guidance, I find, is much easier to trust.
mm.
Um, yeah, yeah. So a
Yeah.
similar experience. Yeah, similar experience in that.
Interesting. Just as you were speaking then, I was thinking like, I really feel that I really feel that trust is in itself a really high
It
frequency.
is. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I think, yeah, I've been doing more channeling lately, and I've been working with this amazing energy healer. And one of the things she said is, she said, if you don't trust what you're receiving, then you're blocking it, you know? And that was such a gift for her to say that to me, because once I started trusting, like more and more was coming through. Um, yeah. And yeah, and I think so many of us just really feel we have to control the outcomes of things in our life, and now I see that that is actually just a really low frequency. Mm,
Yeah. I think in channeling, in my practice as well, the one thing that has really supported me is, because where I mean, I practice that for myself, but I also am part of the Mentors of Love and Wisdom, a not-for-profit organization where we sit in Trinity to receive higher guidance. So we receive from our higher selves in with three people coming together. And my ego mind, of course, starts questioning then how do I know if this is what's coming through?
mm,
Because we receive it, we either download it, so it comes through, we sort of receive it, and then we say it out loud in a channel, or we it literally just straight away goes through. There's two ways sort of receiving. And for me it often starts with like this, it's almost like this word or sense or sentence. Can't even describe it so clearly, but it's like it's floating. And it's like my mind questions, and how do I know?
mm,
How do I know that I start there? How do I know that we go that direction?
mm-hmm,
And then I'm simply asking my mind, I'm gonna ask you now to stop questioning and
mm,
to surrender to this, because this keeps floating, this keeps coming back in my whatever that is, my higher
mm,
mind. Um, so then the moment I trust and I open my mouth and I say that word, or I start speaking about that sense, or I start saying that sentence, everything just rolls out.
mm,
And then there comes a moment, because it's practice, of course, where the mind comes back in and it's questioning, like, like that sounds odd, or like that's like, how do you
mm,
know that? Again, that question of doubt. And then I ask again the mind to step back. Can we surrender? Can we
mm,
trust? And to tell my mind that even though it is the ego, I can only learn through allowing it to come out. If I
Yeah.
hold myself back, nothing comes out.
Yeah.
So that's the same to you, like what your healer said to you, you know, like it's if I block myself, if I don't let
Mm.
anything come out, I'm not receiving or I'm not giving myself an opportunity at all.
Mm.
So it doesn't matter whether it's ego or whether it's divine spirit. We just we need to practice. We need to
Mm.
just allow ourselves an opportunity to practice. And then yes, maybe one moment we do channel ego, and then we realize that after, oh, that wasn't really holding a very high frequency. I didn't really
Mm.
feel light or expanded. Okay, yeah, that's just it. That's another lesson in learning
Yeah.
to channel.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's really making that more simple, I guess,
Mm.
and less pressure, less judgment.
And how, for you, how do you receive, like what is your experience when you have received higher guidance? How has that sort of come to you?
Well, I know from teaching the courses as well and doing all the courses that we receive in many different ways. Like I receive through a very sensible way. Like I sense, I literally like feel a like certain masters. They feel like a certain tingling in certain spots in my body.
Yeah.
Then I feel them being present with me. Um, so Babaji, I feel in my arms. I feel Saint Germain. I feel more here. Mother Mary, I feel in my feet. It's like different senses. Or when my divine spirit, when I feel that I'm open to receiving my divine presence, I feel that very much like a tingling at the top of my head.
Mm.
My higher self, me philos leanama, is more like on my forehead. Like it's sort of
Mm.
I started to learn these different senses of when they are present, and then it's not always like that. Sometimes I still receive in a different way without that sense, but it's always an expansion of my field. So an
Mm.
expansion of my field means for me that I feel very light. I feel very floaty. I feel like this bubble around me. Um, yeah, a tingling in my field and in my physical body. Um, and then I usually receive a deeper knowing, and that's the one that I had to learn to really trust.
Mm.
Because how do I know that it's a deeper knowing and not an ego knowing? You know, like that's been the biggest learning in receiving um higher guidance. But then for some other people, they might receive more through audio. It's like a very clear
Yeah.
guidance they hear. Some people are much more visible. I'm not very visible. Sometimes I receive through vision, but they might see a lot through their third eye.
Mm.
So it's I guess important when you're listening and you're either already on this path or you're sort of very intrigued by this path and very called to jump on. It's good to know and understand that there's no one way of receiving. Um, some people are code masters. I receive codes very easily. Some
Mm.
people, they are wisdom channels. They receive wisdom very easily. Other people are very easy to receive through writing, through
Mm.
journaling. It's the dancing is a way of expressing our higher
Mm.
guidance, our higher frequency. There's so many ways. Singing, sounding.
Sounding, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm. Hmm. Yeah, for me, I think it's in various different ways, but certainly deeper knowing. And I think one of the things that I really want listeners to know is that for me, I feel that it's really important to ask for support. If you're struggling with something, I feel, yeah, for me, when I've really received the guidance that I've needed, I've really sat with the question, what is it that I need to know here? And I would really encourage people to do that, to really proactively ask for support, for guidance. And yeah, you know, I can remember the moment of clarity around our fertility, which was, you know, I'd been in meditation a lot in the previous days and weeks, asking for support and just trying to uplift my frequency because it had got very dense. And then I was just out walking in a field, and for me it was like this sudden, undeniable clarity of what I needed to do. And I think in a way it was easier for it sounds really odd, but in a way it was easier for me to trust because I knew that it's not really what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Like it was so opposed to what my
Yeah.
ego mind wanted to receive
Yeah.
that it almost made me trust it more, which sounds mental, but it was such clarity. You don't need to force, you can just accept, and life will still be so abundant. But yeah, I've also received visually. That's something new that I've been working with, at receiving visually. And yeah, and definitely sort of like what you said about kind of sensory, like tingling and stuff when I'm in meditation. So yeah, I think just being open to trust what is coming through in however way it does.
Whatever. Yeah.
Mm,
And in the beginning, it might, at least that was for me, it might be very subtle. But to then lean into that subtle
yeah.
calling, and then, oh, there's so much more than to receive,
Mm,
there's so much more than from there to learn and receive. So yeah, if there's that subtle calling, then this might be your invitation to trust and follow that and to see how it will unfold for you if you're listening. Yeah.
yeah. Deep down, you know.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything for you left to share around this topic?
I don't think so. No, I feel so passionate about it because I've seen such huge changes in my life from doing it. So we've had this podcast episode on the agenda for a while, haven't we? And I'm so passionate about it because I think that life can be so much easier than we think it needs to be.
Mm.
Yeah. How about for you?
Well, I guess in the broader scope of things, everyone that feels this subtle call also usually feels this sort of deep care for humanity and Mother Earth. And
Mm,
this is the way to support humanity and Mother Earth. Like you opening up to your higher guidance is the best way you can support humanity and Mother Earth. And I think that's the one thing I wanted to add to this, that if you feel a bit helpless around, all the chaos going on and all the separation that we create on the earth as human beings, to make it very simple for yourself is to just focus on this. Just focus on lifting your own vibration, and therefore you are of being massive support to the collective. And it's so needed. It's so
yeah.
needed. Yeah. Mm.
Yeah, it's funny. I can't remember when it was, but at some point in the last couple of years, I received this really clear visual in meditation of a little pebble dropping into this huge, like completely still lake, and then all the ripples flowing out. And it was such a clear message to me around, maybe it feels small, maybe it feels irrelevant or not enough to just like, or selfish almost, maybe to
Yeah.
just focus on yourself.
Yeah.
But what we don't see is the ripple effects out, into the people immediately around us, the people around them and beyond. Yeah. And I think one day, when we return to wherever we came from, I think we will have a deeper understanding of that. And for now, it's just for us to trust.
To trust it, right?
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful. Time for joy sparks then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have one, Renska?
Not on the spot, actually.
Okay.
I have to
I've
take
got
but you
one
got one? Yeah.
that's
Okay.
relating to this. Yeah. So yeah, as part of my breathwork course, was it last week or the week before? I can't remember anyway. Yeah, it was the week before. We were literally having a lesson about intuition, and we had this beautiful woman come on and just talk to us about intuition, because there's definitely sort of a spiritual element to the teachings that we're doing. And anyway, she said at the beginning, "Oh, if there's time, I'm going to read a couple of you if you'd like that." And we've got quite a big class. It's like 30, 40 of us. So the chances of us being one of them that was going to be read is unlikely. But I knew it was going to be me. I knew it was going to be me. And yeah, and anyway, we got to the end of the class and she read two men first, and both of them completely crumbled. You know, what they received meant so much to them that they were just both sobbing. And I was like, oh no, like I knew she was coming for me. And then anyway, she said to the main teacher, "Oh, do we have time for one more?" And the main teacher was umming and ahhing, and I was like, I know what's going to happen here. I know. Anyway, eventually, yeah. And then she said straight away, "B, right, let's do you." So, okay, here we go. Anyway, she gave me this message, and it was interesting because my ego mind was really in resistance. I didn't break down like the two men. I was just like, My ego mind was, quite cross about the message, really. But then I could also see there was underlying truth in it. So I was just very open to kind of observing my reaction, and to finding out more, I suppose. Anyway, and then we immediately went into a breathwork session, and I set the intention of, okay, I'd love to know more about this because my ego mind's clearly not happy about this message. But I'm open. And and then I just received like the clearest, I went on this beautiful journey, a breathwork journey, and then just received such clarity around the message that she shared, which again was literally about trusting again, about this big thing that's happening in my life, and being able to stay connected spiritually. And it was just literally like I had been in quite dense energy the couple of weeks prior to that, and that it just shifted with that message that I'd received from her and then from my higher guidance. And since then, I've been sort of floating around in space of abundance and joy and connectedness. So, it's quite a good one in relation to our topic today.
Beautiful. Thank you.
How are you getting on?
Yeah, I think there's one coming through. Yesterday marked like a 1 year anniversary of a marriage, JP and I, and just as not necessarily that I'm sort of reflecting on our marriage only, but it brought me to more of like a reflective state on my life as well, in the last, within our relationship, I guess, as well. So it brought me back to that zoom out of, wow, the last 4 or 5 years, what has happened? How has my life been unfolding? And just the amount of gratitude for what the inner work has brought me in the outer world, what the going inwards now is sort of showing me in my reality. That's been, I think, in the past couple of days, I've been very aware of that in the past couple of days, that, within my business, within our family, within my relationship with JP, it's just, within my friends, everything. It's like there's just so much abundance in my reality, and it doesn't mean that there's no lows. I'm not saying that at all. There's still moments that I feel overwhelmed, and there's still still triggers. I mean, in the previous episode, I shared, the big thing that happened with me around Lily and what has triggered me and how I work through it. There's still lessons and there will be in the rest of my life. It's just that sort of the main underlying stream feels like such a solid foundation now. Like there's really solid foundation of acceptance and peace and joy. So many joy sparks that I noticed now that I've opened my eyes to. So I'm just very joyful and grateful for that.
Yeah, beautiful.
Let's ground, right? We're gonna
Yeah.
ground and anchor.
We'll soon take a short moment to ground and anchor together. If this conversation resonated and you'd like to go a little deeper, we'd love to welcome you into our Joy Circle, a monthly newsletter where we share extra reflections, meditations, and resources to support you. You can find us on Instagram at School of Joy Podcast, and we'd love for you to support us on our mission to spread more light and joy in the world by sharing with family and friends. You'll find all the links in the episode description. Thanks again for listening. Okay. Just taking some nice, deep, beautiful breaths. And just feeling the weight of our body on the surface beneath us. And as we continue to breathe, just calling to our divine spirit. And just asking it to be with us here today in our day, in our everyday life. Calling it forward now. And just opening ourselves to receive, to trust, to acceptance, and to the beauty of life unfolding just as it should.